Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wondered how ancient cultures systematize their understanding of the world? I mean, not just for survival, but for feats that seemed impossible, almost like they had some kind of operating manual for reality itself. We often neatly categorize history, science here, philosophy there, myth over here. But what if one of the most influential texts actually combined all three to create a guide for how to influence and shape reality rather than just observe it?
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is the sheer ambition behind these ancient thinkers' quest. They really sought to understand causality, didn't they? This intricate web of interconnectedness that binds everything in the cosmos.
Right.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into a text that represents an extraordinary, meticulously detailed attempt to map the entire universe from the furthest celestial spheres right down to the subtleties of human will. And then apply that knowledge with profound, almost programmatic intent.
Programmatic, yeah.
It's a roadmap for actively influencing the world, not merely observing it.
Yeah.
And, in many ways, it offers a conceptual framework that, when you look at it through a modern lens, isn't entirely dissimilar to how we might think about complex systems, or even perhaps early notions of artificial intelligence, particularly in the realm of embodied AI.
That's it, exactly. Our mission today is to explore the Picatrix, a work that is truly legendary and yet somehow often misunderstood. It's cloaked in both mystique and, well, a fair bit of scholarly obscurity.
It really is.
We'll peel back its many layers, uncovering its remarkable historical journey, its deep philosophical underpinnings, and its astonishingly practical, though certainly challenging applications. And this isn't about magic as like a parlor trick or just superstitious belief.
Not at all.
It's about a highly sophisticated system of what we might call cosmic data or magical data, meticulously cataloged and structured. The text envisions this as a comprehensive toolkit for goal accomplishment, embodying subtle influences and forces to, well, to alter reality. You could genuinely think of it as an ancient instruction manual for programming those subtle forces, an early blueprint, perhaps, for influencing the fabric of existence itself.
And you'll discover that the level of detail, the precision, and the systematic thought embedded in this material, it profoundly challenges many of our modern assumptions about ancient intellect. It really does.
Yeah.
It compels us to ask an important question.
Thank you.
How did they perceive the physics of their world? What were the fundamental laws they believed governed the cosmos? And crucially, what tools did they believe they had at their disposal to interact with and perhaps even manipulate those perceived forces?
Right.
This concept of cosmic data, the painstaking cataloging of correspondences, specific timings, material properties, it becomes absolutely central to understanding their systematic approach to influencing reality. It's a way of looking at the universe as a vast, interconnected information system.
So let's begin at the beginning then. Where does this truly remarkable book come from? Its origins are, well, they're quite shrouded in a bit of mystery, aren't they? Which significantly adds to its allure and the challenges of understanding its true legacy.
Indeed. And Picatrix wasn't its original name, which itself adds to the intrigue.
Oh, right.
It was initially titled Gayat al Hakim, that translates from Arabic as the goal of the sage, or perhaps the aim of the wise.
Wow. That's quite a title.
It immediately sets the tone, doesn't it? Indicating it was intended for serious students of cosmic truths, not, dabblers. The text was penned by an anonymous Arab wizard, most likely residing in North Africa or Spain sometime in the 9th century CE.
A vibrant time intellectually.
Absolutely. A vibrant intellectual crucible, a meeting point of diverse cultures and profound scientific and philosophical inquiry. Now, as was common practice in that era, authorship was often attributed to a notable, well respected figure, to lend a text more authority, mystique, and often a protective veil.
Makes sense.
In this case, the Gayat al Hakim was credited to the renowned Sufi and scholar Abu al Qasim Maslama ibn Ahmad Ahmadjati, a respected astronomer, mathematician, alchemist.
So a big name.
A very big name. This anonymity and attributed authorship were very much part of the intellectual landscape of the time. It blurred the lines between individual genius and a collective evolving body of wisdom. It made the text itself almost a living, breathing entity, more a repository of ancient wisdom than just one person's creation.
And this wasn't just some isolated piece of writing, was it? It sounds like it emerged from a real melting pot of ideas and traditions, suggesting a synthesis of vast amounts of knowledge.
Precisely. The 9th century in that region, particularly under the Abbasid Caliphate's influence, was a time of unparalleled intellectual ferment. a crossroad where diverse magical, philosophical, and scientific traditions were not merely collected, but actively synthesized and integrated. Think about the influences at play. Neoplatonist theurgy, for example. That was a ceremonial magic aimed at drawing down divine influence through ritual purification. It provided a key philosophical scaffolding.
Right.
Then you had the ancient astral magic of Mesopotamia, rooted in millennia of observing celestial bodies and understanding their supposed effects on terrestrial events. This tradition meticulously mapped planetary positions to human affairs.
A huge amount of observation involved in this.
Immense.
Yeah.
But the Picatrix wasn't limited to just those.
Right.
Its pages also contain practices and concepts that show clear affinities with the more practical, image based magic of ancient Egypt, and even philosophical and ritualistic influences borrowed directly from Hindu traditions.
So truly global in scope.
It really was. This wasn't simply a collection of disparate magical recipes, it was an ambitious, scholarly effort to unify, systematize, and categorize a vast array of global magical techniques into a comprehensive framework. It truly aimed for a unified theory of influence, a grand system for understanding and manipulating cosmic
The
forces.
system.
This aspiration made it a pivotal work for understanding how these ancient thinkers conceived of structured cosmic data and its sophisticated application.
And how did this Arabic text, the Gayat al Hakim, how did it make its way across the cultural and linguistic divides to, well, profoundly influence the Western world? It seems like quite an extraordinary journey for a text that was, at its heart, about very practical applications of esoteric knowledge.
It is indeed an intriguing intellectual journey. It speaks volumes about the open mindedness and intellectual curiosity of certain European courts during the Middle Ages. The text was first translated from Arabic into Spanish and then from Spanish into Latin in the year 1256.
1256. Wow.
Yeah, this monumental translation project took place at the court of Alfonso X, often known as Alfonso the Wise, King of Castile. His court in Toledo was a major center for translating Arabic scholarly works into Latin, making vital knowledge accessible to Western Europe.
Right. Toledo was key for that.
Absolutely. It was during this translation process that the text received its more famous and, as you mentioned, enigmatic new title, Picatrix.
Picatrix. Any idea what it means?
Well, scholars are still debating the exact etymology and meaning. One of the more plausible explanations suggests it's a Latinization of an Arabic transliteration, perhaps Bucratis, which some connect to Hippocrates.
Interesting.
Another compelling theory linked it to Harpocrates, the Hellenistic Egyptian god of silence, secrecy, and mystery, which would certainly resonate with the esoteric and clandestine nature of the text's contents, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. Silence and mystery.
And to add yet another layer of intrigue, the Latin text itself explicitly claims that Picatrix was the name of the book's author.
Seriously. So not a title, but a person.
That's what it claims,
Yeah.
further blurring the lines between personal identity and the vast ancient knowledge contained within its pages. This deliberate obfuscation, it amplified its mystique and authority.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Despite this profound initial impact, the Picatrix largely dropped from public view for centuries. It became almost a forgotten relic. How does that happen?
Yes, and this is a significant point about how intellectual paradigms shift over time, fundamentally altering what is considered valuable knowledge. The Picatrix had immense, undeniable influence on Western magical and philosophical traditions throughout the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Its fingerprints are subtly and sometimes overtly visible across a vast intellectual landscape.
Like who? Who is using it?
Okay, consider Marsilio Ficino. His groundbreaking translation of the Corpus Hermeticum in the mid 15th century effectively launched the entire Renaissance occult revival, right?
Right, Ficino's huge.
Well, Ficino demonstrably borrowed heavily from the Picatrix for his own seminal work, Three Books on Life, particularly in his discussions of astrological magic and the creation of talismans for health and well being.
No kidding.
Or take Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. His monumental three books of occult philosophy from the early 16th century became the foundational text for centuries of occult study across Europe.
Agrippa, yeah, everyone knows Agrippa.
Agrippa's work was extensively and directly influenced by the Picatrix. Borrowing its hierarchical cosmology, its intricate system of correspondences, numerous practical magical techniques, it's all in there.
Wow.
Even leading English occult figures of the 16th and 17th centuries, people like the astrologer Simon Forman, the antiquarian Elias Ashmole, the renowned astrologer William Lilly, They explicitly cited and used the Picatrix as a primary source for their magical work.
So this wasn't some fringe text hidden away.
Absolutely not. It was a central pillar, a core intellectual resource for those who were seriously exploring these arts. It demonstrates its profound intellectual and practical impact on major thinkers and practitioners across centuries. It was, you could say, the veritable source code for a particular understanding of the universe.
But then, despite being so foundational, it just vanished. How does something so impactful become so obscure?
Precisely. The decline of the Picatrix's prominence directly correlates with the end of the Renaissance and the subsequent rise of scientific materialism. This new intellectual paradigm started to dominate 17th century European culture.
The scientific revolution.
Exactly. This shift moved drastically away from the integrated spiritual material worldviews of the past towards a more mechanistic, empirically verifiable, quantifiable understanding of reality. In this new framework, ideas of subtle correspondences, celestial influences on terrestrial events, animated talismans, they were increasingly seen as superstitions, not systematic knowledge.
The cosmic data became irrelevant.
Or worse, dangerous. Even the significant revival of magical and esoteric studies in the Western world that occurred in the middle of the 19th century largely passed it by. The focus had shifted to other traditions like ceremonial magic, Hermeticism.
So they got left behind.
It did. Today remains, as scholars note, the least known of the major works of Western occultism. This historical trajectory raises profound questions, doesn't it, about how shifts in dominant paradigms from a worldview that actively integrated spiritual and material forces to one focused almost exclusively on measurable physical phenomena can render once vital and profoundly influential knowledge almost entirely obscure. It's a powerful testament to how what is considered valuable data or useful technology changes dramatically with the prevailing scientific and philosophical framework of an era.
So we're definitely not talking about just a dusty old spell book then. Its central focus seems far more profound, almost like a grand theory of everything in a way.
Absolutely not. To call the Picatrix merely a collection of magical recipes and rituals would be a gross oversimplification. It's like calling a complex operating system just a collection of apps.
Right.
While it certainly contains plenty of detailed instructions for magical procedures, and we'll definitely get into some of those, its central focus is deeply and explicitly philosophical. It is, in fact, acknowledged by scholars as the most extensive treatise on the philosophy of magic to be written anywhere west of India during a span of over 1,000 years, specifically between the 4th and 16th centuries.
Wow, that's a huge claim.
And accurate. Its ambition was to provide a comprehensive theoretical framework for understanding the cosmos, for systematically collecting and processing that cosmic data, and crucially, for influencing it. This highlights its truly comprehensive nature as a compendium of both magical philosophy and practical lore, meticulously drawn from incredibly diverse global sources, all aiming for a unified, overarching theory of influence.
A unified theory.
It sought to understand the inherent physics of their world, even if that physics included subtle, unseen forces, and then to create a practical toolkit for goal accomplishment based on that profound understanding.
So, what does this all mean for understanding how they thought about influencing the world? It sounds like they were building a kind of sophisticated, interconnected system, far more advanced than we often give ancient thinkers credit for.
It truly was. They weren't just randomly performing rituals or blindly following tradition. They were meticulously trying to map the universe, to identify its causal levers, and to develop precise, repeatable methods to engage them.
The toolkit.
Exactly. This is precisely where the concept of cosmic data or magical data becomes incredibly relevant. They were collecting and organizing an astonishing amount of information about cosmic correspondences, planetary influences, the subtle energies connecting everything from stars to stones, and the precise timings required to harness these forces.
And not just for theory.
No, for practical application. To build what we might conceptually call spiritual technologies or embodied agents to manifest desired outcomes. They viewed the cosmos as an interconnected system, and their magic was an attempt to understand and interact with its underlying code.
Okay, so the Picatrix lays out this incredibly complex worldview, a hierarchical order to reality. How did its authors actually see the fundamental structure of the universe? What was the architecture of existence for them?
Their cosmology is absolutely fundamental to understanding their entire system of cosmic data and how they believed it could be leveraged. It posits a deeply interconnected hierarchical universe. Every lower level is not only influenced by, but also reflects and embodies the properties of the higher levels.
Okay, so top down influence.
Precisely. At the very top, of course, is God, described as the first, the shaper, the ultimate creator of all that exists. Below God, in descending order of purity and abstraction, you have pure consciousness or intellect, the realm of divine thought, pure forms,
The mind of God, almost.
in a sense. Then comes spirit, which acts as a bridge, a subtle medium. This is followed by matter, specifically the quintessence or materia alta, a pure, immutable ether that forms the celestial spheres themselves.
Oh, the quintessence.
Below that lies the sphere of nature, also known as the prima mobile, conceived as the prime mover of all things in motion and the ultimate source of all generation and corruption in the sublunar world.
So everything above the moon is, in a sense, a higher, purer form of reality, almost like different layers of a cosmic operating system.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. Below the prima mobile, you then find the sphere of the fixed stars and a series of other planetary spheres, descending finally to the sphere of the moon, which delineates the boundary between the perfect celestial realm and our imperfect earthly one.
The sublunar sphere.
Right. Below the moon, you enter the sublunar world. It begins with universal matter, the prima materia, or first matter, which contains the hidden archetypal patterns of all things on Earth. From this undifferentiated matter comes the four elements: fire, air, water, earth.
The building blocks.
The building blocks. These elements then manifest in increasingly complex forms: minerals, followed by plants, then animals, and finally, at the pinnacle of the lower world, rational animals, humanity,
Us.
us. This hierarchical structure isn't just a philosophical idea, it's akin to a complex cascading algorithm. Celestial influences, acting as high level inputs, flow down through these layers, ultimately producing effects outputs in the material world.
And humans are special in this model.
Yes, humans, being at the highest point of the terrestrial realm, are unique. They possess the capacity for knowledge and inquiry. They effectively serve as a bridge between the material world and the divine, capable of understanding and, crucially, interacting with this system, becoming active operators within it.
Active operators. I like that. And their view of knowledge wasn't just about accumulating facts, right? It was something far more profound, more noble, almost a spiritual endeavor in itself.
Absolutely. Their emphasis on knowledge was, as you say, deeply spiritual and transformative. They explicitly state, knowledge is a perfect and noble thing.
A perfect and noble thing.
For them, the pursuit of knowledge wasn't merely an academic exercise or a quest for intellectual mastery. It was fundamentally a form of spiritual endeavor, intimately involving the study of God's commandments and goodness, precisely because all true knowledge, perception, and goodness were believed to proceed directly from the divine source.
So knowing is connecting to the divine.
In essence, yes. They held the belief that the human spirit itself descends from a higher world and inherently desires to return to its origin, to reconnect with that divine source. In the process of seeking and gaining knowledge, it was believed that the human spirit gained the capacity to truly know the world, to understand its hidden powers, and to grasp the intricate design by which it was made by its creator. The ultimate source of this profound knowledge, they asserted, is true wisdom, a wisdom that transcends mere facts and links the spiritual quest with a very practical, almost scientific understanding of the cosmos, thereby providing the essential philosophical foundation for their extensive cosmic data collection.
This sounds less like mere belief and more like a rigorous science in their eyes, requiring deep study. You mentioned they lay out a specific quadrivium, a set of 4 academic disciplines, as the absolute foundation for engaging with what we call magic.
This is a critical point that truly challenges our modern misconceptions of ancient magic as just, superstitious mumbo jumbo.
Mm.
The Picatrix unequivocally states that the fundamental underpinning of magic, its very bedrock, is the intricate movement of the planets.
Okay.
To truly understand this, and therefore to be able to draw to oneself what he wishes, one must diligently study the natural and mathematical quadrivium. These are just tangential subjects, a bit of background reading. They are presented as absolutely essential prerequisites, the core curriculum for any aspiring practitioner.
So arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, astrology, these are the absolute prerequisites for understanding and manipulating reality according to the Picatrix.
Exactly. Ignorance of any of these subjects, the text explicitly warns, renders one imperfect in understanding celestial movements. It's like trying to program a complex system without understanding its underlying code, right? Or attempting a precise experiment without the necessary mathematical tools.
Makes sense.
Arithmetic and geometry, for instance, were necessary not just for general education, but specifically for calculating celestial motions, predicting their returns and transits, understanding the precise spatial relationships required for uh, talismanic construction.
And music. That seems like an outlier.
But it gets even more fascinating with music. The Picatrix insists that one must learn music not for entertainment, but as a deep philosophical study, to truly understand the proportions and numbers of things that govern the universe.
Proportions and numbers, like harmony.
Precisely. It was believed that through music, one could grasp how celestial things correspond in love and hatred with terrestrial actions.
Wow. So music helps you understand the cosmic data, the complex resonant relationships between different elements in the universal algorithm, like the underlying harmonic structure of reality itself.
Exactly. Music in this context wasn't just sound, it was a conceptual tool for understanding universal resonance and harmony, revealing the underlying sympathetic correspondences that define their hierarchical universe. This profound requirement reveals magic as a truly interdisciplinary pursuit, far from simple superstition.
Yeah.
It demanded deep theoretical understanding and precise calculation akin to modern scientific modeling, but using a very different conceptual framework and a data set that included celestial influences and their terrestrial reflections.
Right.
The idea of correspondences like love and hatred between celestial and terrestrial actions, or the specific qualities linked to each planet, is a critical piece of this cosmic data, an elaborate interconnected mapping of relationships in the universe that the practitioner had to master. It was their way of sort of reverse engineering the universe's operating system.
Okay, but beyond all the calculations and the mapping of correspondences, the human element seems surprisingly central. It sounds like the practitioner's own will and belief are absolutely paramount for anything to work.
This is where the Picatrix delves into something that resonates deeply, even with modern psychological or, self-help concepts,
Yeah.
albeit within a vastly different framework. The text explicitly states that the union of your whole will and belief in the work is not just helpful, but essential for efficacy.
Essential.
The goal is to ensure that the power of your spirit is united with the power of the heavens. It's not simply about mechanically following a ritual or reciting an incantation. The internal focused state of the operator is presented as a direct input into the system, a critical component of the magical circuit. Without it, the circuit is incomplete.
And they even quote Plato on this. That adds another layer of philosophical weight, doesn't it?
Yes, Plato is explicitly quoted, stating, "When someone speaks a word with intention and belief concords with it, whoever hears it is moved." The Picatrix extends this principle to the cosmos itself. This emphasizes the profound psychological and spiritual discipline required of the practitioner. The operator's internal state, their moral purity, unwavering focus, absolute belief in the working, is not peripheral, but directly impacts the efficacy of the working. It's not merely an external ritual, it's an internal alignment, almost like calibrating the human processor for optimal data transmission and reception within this cosmic information network.
That connection to modern ideas of intention and focus is striking.
It is, isn't it? Albeit within a cosmological context where these internal states are believed to literally interact with celestial and elemental forces. It underscores the human operator as an integral active component within the overall magical system, or as we've suggested, this proto AI.
And it seems they also believe that the human mind, when properly prepared, could access information directly from these subtle layers of reality through dreams and visions, like receiving direct data feeds.
Absolutely. Dreams and visions were considered vital channels for receiving data about these subtle influences, direct insights from the higher realms. The Picatrix describes dreams as demonstrations of pure images separated from physical bodies that occur when the soul turns away from its sensory perceptions, when the noise of the physical world quietens.
Okay.
In this purified state, the spirit becomes a medium between the things of the senses and the visible experience, a direct interface for receiving non physical information.
But there's a catch, right? It's not just about wanting it.
Right, there's a crucial caveat reflecting their holistic understanding of human nature. The text states that purity of the body, specifically a proper humoral balance, is absolutely necessary for truthful and certain visions.
Humoral balance, like the four humors.
Exactly. The ancient medical concept that the body's health depended on the balance of blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. If these were out of balance, the visions would be false and vain.
So physical health impacts spiritual reception.
That's the idea. It suggests a belief that the human mind, when appropriately prepared and unburdened by physical or energetic imbalances, could act as a direct, clear interface for receiving data about the subtle influences at play in the cosmos. providing vital insights for their operations and almost serving as a diagnostic tool for the universe's hidden patterns.
Now let's get to the how. The Picatrix is packed with practical instructions for making these magical images or talismans. How did these function as a toolkit to achieve goals? This sounds like the ancient world's version of, I don't know, programming an outcome, creating a physical manifestation of an intention.
That's an excellent analogy,
Hmm.
perhaps one of the most compelling ways to understand this. These magical images are what they call talismans, a term derived from a word meaning violators.
Violators. That sounds harsh.
It is quite telling, isn't it? Because they are explicitly stated to be made by violence, by conquering the raw substance of which they are composed. This isn't about gently coaxing. It suggests an active, forceful imposition of a desired order, a specific program onto raw, undifferentiated matter.
Imposing order.
Yes, the talismans are made with mathematical proportions and influences, and are often inscribed with celestial writing, specific symbols or characters believed to encode the desired celestial energies.
So they're like physical manifestations designed to receive and transmit celestial programming, almost like hardware designed to run a specific cosmic software.
Precisely. These talismans are designed to receive the aforementioned influence, much like a highly specialized receptor or an antenna tuned to a particular frequency. And once created and inscribed, they are strengthened by suffumigation.
Suffumigation, like with incense.
Exactly. A process of exposing them to the smoke of specific incenses, often chosen for their sympathetic correspondences, to draw spirits into them, thereby animating them. This is a clear analogy to creating a specialized agent designed for a specific task or particular program.
An embodied agent.
Yes, they are not merely symbolic objects. They're intended to be active, embodied agents of influence imbued with a specific function. The text even draws a direct comparison between talismans and the alchemical elixir.
The elixir, like the philosopher's stone.
Similar concept. The elixir, it says, conquers bodies and by transmutation changes them to other purer bodies. And the elixir, they note, is compounded from all parts of the world animals, plants, woods, minerals, making it similar to the world itself, a concentrated form of universal forces.
So it's all about concentration and transformation.
Exactly. It implies a universal principle of transformation through precise compounding, where the toolkit, be it talismans or the alchemical elixir, is a concentrated, potent version of cosmic forces designed to operate directly on reality, almost like a universal alchemical solvent for change.
The level of detail for these talismans is astounding. It's like a massive database of correspondences, all this cosmic data meticulously cataloged and cross referenced. How granular was this mapping?
It is truly a masterclass in ancient data organization, a vast system of energetic information. The Picatrix provides an incredibly intricate system of planetary correspondences. Each of the seven classical planets Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury moon rules specific metals, stones, animals, trees, colors, incenses, tastes, professions, places, even body parts.
Wow.
This isn't just arbitrary association, it's the core cosmic data upon which the entire system is built, a complex mapping of sympathetic resonance across all levels of existence.
Can you give us some specific examples? Like, how did they link, say, Saturn to practical applications?
Okay, Saturn. It's incredibly precise. For Saturn, you're looking at metals like iron, parts of gold, stones like diamond, onyx, a black clear stone called asvei. Its colors are black. It's associated with professions involving earthworking, plowing, digging, architecture activities that are slow, laborious, deal with foundations.
Makes sense. Saturn is slow, heavy.
Right. Among humors, it rules melancholy. It signifies concepts like fear, deep thoughts, sorrows, death. So, a talisman for endurance, for securing foundations, or perhaps even for inducing melancholy or fear in an enemy, would incorporate Saturnine elements, materials, colors.
And Jupiter, by contrast, would be for something entirely different then, more positive.
Exactly. Jupiter, in stark contrast, rules tin among metals. Stones like emerald, crystal, white yellow precious stones. Its color is white tending toward red. It's strongly associated with kings, wisdom, law, prosperity, and the liver.
Okay.
Mars, on the other hand, governs iron and the color red. Linked to surgeons, soldiers, anger, boldness, the gallbladder. Mercury rules quicksilver, lodestone, blue mixed colors, scribes, scholars, intellect, the brain and heart. Anything related to communication, learning, quickness.
Mercury, the messenger.
Precisely. The sun's domain includes gold, diamond, yellow, or red colors, kings, glory, the heart governing vitality and success. Venus corresponds to copper, sapphire, green, love, joy, beauty, the kidneys. And finally, the moon rules silver, learning, news, travel. The stomach, associated with cold and moist qualities.
So comprehensive.
It is. So if you wanted to make a talisman for leadership, or gaining wisdom, or attracting prosperity, you would meticulously select materials and timings corresponding to Jupiter. This intricate system provides the cosmic data, a structured ontology of the universe where everything is linked by sympathetic resonance.
Right.
To create an effective magical agent, you needed to select materials, colors, even animal parts that resonated with the specific planetary influence you wish to invoke, effectively programming the talisman's properties.
But that's only part of the equation, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
astrological timing is absolutely paramount. Even if you have all the right ingredients, the right hardware, if you don't know when to activate them, it's useless, right? It's like the perfect software, but you launch it at the wrong time.
Correct. Timing is absolutely non negotiable. The Picatrix emphasizes that all magical works require the proper hour and time and arrangement of the heavens, with appropriate astrological ascendants. This isn't a vague suggestion, it's a precise set of astronomical calculations.
Oh, kind of calculation.
It includes understanding the moon's phases, whether it's waxing, increasing, generally favorable for building or acquiring, or waning, decreasing, favorable for diminishing or banishing. You also need to consider its position in the zodiac, diurnal, nocturnal sign, short, long ascension, and its aspects to other planets.
Aspects, like trines and squares.
Exactly. Trine 120 degrees and sextile 60 degrees aspects are generally favorable, signifying harmony, ease. While square 90 degrees and opposition 180 degrees are highly unfavorable and must be scrupulously avoided, as are eclipses or being under the sun's rays within about 12 degrees, which debilitates a planet's influence.
It truly sounds like a celestial algorithm you have to follow exactly, where tiny deviations could lead to, well, catastrophic failure.
It is almost literally like complex celestial algorithms that must be followed for effective programming. For instance, the text states, if the moon ascends in signs of short ascension, and an infortune, meaning a malefic planet like Saturn or Mars, is there, it will overturn and destroy the effect.
Wow, just like that.
It highlights the sensitivity of the system. Conversely, to gain the love of another, you're instructed to make an image in the hour of Jupiter with Virgo rising and with the waxing moon in the ascendant 4th, 7th, or 10th houses.
So specific.
Every element here is specific. Jupiter's hour for benevolence, Virgo rising, maybe for mental connection, moon waxing for increase, the strong angular houses. It demonstrates a profound belief in precise celestial mechanics influencing terrestrial events. Every planetary position and aspect contributes to the data that determines success or failure. It's about optimizing the cosmic conditions for your desired outcome, like finding the perfect moment to deploy an autonomous agent.
The scope of what these images, these embodied agents, could apparently do is just vast, from personal relationships to large scale urban planning. It truly was considered a comprehensive toolkit for influencing all aspects of reality.
Indeed, the applications described are incredibly diverse, demonstrating the ambitious scope of their perceived toolkit. For personal relationships, intricate instructions exist for creating images to generate friendship between man and wife, or conversely, to separate two friends, using very specific houses and planetary aspects.
Like programming relationships.
In a way, for friendship, make the 11th house of the first image the ascendant of the second. For hostility, use malefics like Mars or Saturn in key places with challenging aspects.
And pest control. That seems surprisingly practical, almost mundane, for a book of high magic dealing with cosmic forces.
It is, and that's what makes the Picatrix so uniquely comprehensive. It shows they applied their understanding of cosmic data to every level of existence. The text gives explicit instructions for creating figures on specific materials: red copper, sulfur stone, tin plate tied to particular planetary faces or zodiacal signs, specifically to chase away mice, to be rid of gnats, or to chase away flies.
How would that even work?
Sympathetic magic, likely. A figure of a lion or scorpion, maybe under Mars or Saturn timing, the image of a strong predator deterring smaller pests. For healing and protection, there are images of scorpions for stings, lion images for protection, even instructions using human remains for memory or healing. Specific stone types: bezoar, emerald, ruby, diamond are often key, chosen for inherent properties or planetary affinities.
So it's not just about personal health or mundane problems, it's about control over people and events, too. This is where the implications become much broader, potentially darker.
Absolutely. The ambition was comprehensive control. There are recipes for images to make any man quickly come to you, using linen cloth, Venus our Venus for attraction. Or, conversely, instructions to make the anger of the king to fall on whomever you wish, using two images, specific Saturn aspects, Saturn for restriction, malevolence.
Binding tongues. That sounds
Yes.
intense.
One particularly fascinating instruction is to bind tongues so that nothing evil is said of you. It involved a mixture of powdered tongues, likely animal tongues, consecrated and perhaps used ritually. This highlights the intention to exert influence over social dynamics, individual behaviors, public perception, treating human will and speech as elements to be precisely manipulated within their system.
This book even delves into what sounds like ancient environmental engineering or terraforming, using cosmic data and specific materials to manipulate natural phenomena on a grand scale. That's truly astonishing.
This is where the Picatrix gets truly ambitious, where we can conceptually link it to large scale technological interventions, albeit through magical means. The text recounts the story of an ancient king of India who, through these principles, built a pillar that attracted the moisture of the air to provide water for his entire city.
Pulled water from the air. How?
Not through conventional means, the text claims, but by purifying salt water through subtle magistries of geometry and the science of magic, effectively condensing atmospheric moisture and drawing it into the city's water supply. It's a profound example of what we might call terraforming or environmental engineering through magical means, using their deep understanding of elements, celestial influences, material properties.
Controlling the environment through subtle intervention.
Exactly, leveraging the hidden patterns of the universe.
And it describes alchemical processes too to soften materials. It suggests a very different approach to material science than we know today, doesn't it?
Yes. The Picatrix includes detailed recipes for softening incredibly hard bodies, bone, horn, stone, metal, transforming them into a malleable paste. These aren't simple formulas, they involve elaborate chemical mixtures. Sal alkali, galbanum, ammoniac, specific heating processes.
Wow.
It highlights the Picatrix's view of nature as deeply malleable through precise alchemical interventions, suggesting a kind of chemical magic or ancient material science that leverages the inherent subtle properties of matter in conjunction with celestial influences and timing. It's about transforming substances through specific programming, changing their very nature, almost like reprogramming their elemental structure.
But the absolute peak of this ancient vision of applied intelligence has to be the city of Adasantine. This takes Smart City to a whole new level, a metropolis seemingly built and managed by embodied spirits. Almost like an ancient blueprint for an autonomous system, an embodied AI controlling civic life.
Adelsanton is perhaps the most incredible, almost unbelievable example of the Picatrix vision for an applied system. A true ancient blueprint for a city managed by what we might conceptually call embodied AI or pervasive intelligent agents. The text describes an ancient king who built this vast city, 12 miles long, featuring a central citadel with 4 gates.
Okay.
At each gate, he placed the image of a specific animal: eagle at the eastern, bull at the western, lion at the southern, dog at the northern. Crucially, the text states that certain spiritual essences were specifically made to enter into these, which used to speak in voices that issued from the images.
They spoke, so not just statues.
Not mere statues, animated entities. No one, we are told, could pass through these gates without their explicit permission.
So these animal images were literal guardians, endowed with intelligence and agency, acting as gatekeepers and security systems.
Precisely. Autonomous intelligent agents embedded directly into the city's infrastructure, performing sophisticated security functions. But the city's pervasive influence went even further. At Dawsonton also had trees, an arbor of all generation, employing a garden that produced all kinds of flora, maybe even regulating the city's ecosystem.
Self-sustaining almost.
Possibly. There was also a tower with a sphere whose color changed daily. This changing hue was said to permeate the entire city, subtly influencing the mood and atmosphere of its inhabitants.
Mood control.
Seems like it. Most remarkably, the city contained other images that made inhabitants virtuous and freed from sin, wickedness, and sloth.
Wow. Moral programming.
These images are literal embodied agents, animated by spirits and cosmic forces, performing complex, highly integrated functions: guardians, moral shapers, environmental regulators, even mood influencers. This is the closest the text comes to describing a truly autonomous, interconnected system for pervasive societal management and environmental manipulation, using magic as the underlying forceware.
Forswear.
It's an ancient vision of technological control, leveraging vast amounts of cosmic data to program pervasive influence and manage a complex society. Hashtag tag tag AVF. The operator's role and warnings from the past.
Okay, with such powerful tools or perhaps proto AI systems as we've been discussing, What were the responsibilities and risks for the practitioner, for the operator? It seems like it wasn't just about technical skill or knowing the right code, but something far more personal.
You've hit on a crucial point there. It definitely wasn't just about technical expertise or a detached understanding of the system. The Picatrix places significant, almost paramount, emphasis on the moral, physical, and spiritual state of the practitioner. The operator is an absolutely integral part of the system's efficacy, not just an external programmer. The text explicitly states that the practitioner must be of good deeds, far from all evil deeds, clean and clear from all voluptuousness.
Internal state directly impacted the outcome, almost like a calibration of their own processing unit or their connection to the cosmic network. An error in the operator could lead to system failure.
Exactly. One compelling and a rather chilling story recounts a magician who attempted a moon, working a complex ritual to invoke lunar influences, but failed spectacularly. The reason? He spent a certain night living in a manner contradictory to this operation, meaning he was impure or unaligned with the principles required.
And the result?
The consequence was dire and immediate. His mouth was sealed shut, rendering him unable to speak, and he ultimately died. This stark warning emphasizes that the operator is part of the system. Their moral and physical state purity, focus, unwavering belief directly determines success. Impurity or a lack of faith or congruence, they believed, leads to disorder in the structure of the working, like a software bug introduced by a faulty human interface.
It really does sound like an ancient form of ethical AI or responsible use guidelines.
You could absolutely see it that way, where knowledge is not just power, but a dangerous, self correcting force in the wrong hands, and the human element must align perfectly with the cosmic code.
The text also includes a crucial warning about revealing these secrets, right? Suggesting the knowledge itself carries inherent dangers if misused.
Cosmic data and the ability to command embodied agents must be handled with extreme caution and discretion. Its misuse could lead to societal chaos or spiritual corruption. It's a warning about the unintended consequences of powerful technology in untrained or unethical hands.
Now, it's important to mention, and you alluded to this, that the translators of the Pictrix themselves offer an important note about its content, acknowledging that it can make for, let's say, uncomfortable reading for a modern audience.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it serves as a powerful reminder that all historical texts are products of their time, emerging from specific cultural, social, ethical contexts. The translators explicitly state that Picatrix is not politically correct and contains plenty of things that will affront the modern reader.
Such a
Well, this includes views on gender relations, the acquisition and use of political power, and significantly for some, the ethics of animal use for magical purposes. Our role as guides through this material is really to impartially convey the ideas contained in the original source material, to understand its historical context and the worldview from which it emerged.
right.
It's a window into a different time with very different ethical and social norms. We are here to understand, not necessarily to judge or endorse, but to extract the conceptual value.
This highlights the importance of maintaining a historical distance when engaging with such challenging content, doesn't it? Especially when it touches on topics that can be politically charged or morally complex by today's standards. We're here to understand the system they envisioned, not to validate its every premise.
Precisely. We acknowledge that it contains material that can be unsettling for a modern sensibility, but it's vital for understanding the complete picture of ancient thought and the breadth of what they considered within their systems. It forces us to confront how different cultures have conceived of power, influence, and the very fabric of reality. Hashtag tag, hashtag outro.
Well, we've truly taken a deep dive into the Picatrix today, uncovering a remarkably rich, complex system where celestial influences, human will, and meticulously crafted material objects were interwoven to effect profound change in the world. It presents a fascinating case study, really, of ancient attempts to systematize knowledge, to collect what we've called cosmic data, and to build sophisticated tools for achieving desired outcomes. Almost like a comprehensive ancient programming manual for reality itself.
Indeed. What's most fascinating here, I think, is how the authors of Picatrix painstakingly cataloged their universe. They created what we might conceptually see as vast amounts of cosmic data, the intricate correspondences between planets and earthly phenomena, the precise astrological timings, the specific properties of materials.
All that detail.
Exactly. Data that, when correctly processed through rituals and talismans, were believed to manifest desired effects. These talismans, then, were the embodied agents of this ancient system. designed to act directly on reality, from influencing human emotions and relationships to shaping the very environment.
Embodied agents.
Their detailed instructions for creating these agents, down to specific materials and astrological timings, represent a highly systematic approach to what they perceived as a hidden physics of the world, a deep understanding of its subtle energies and interactions.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Whether we call it magic, ancient science, or speculative technology, the fundamental human quest to understand and influence the world around us, and perhaps even its subtle, unseen dimensions, is just a constant throughout history. The Picatrix offers a unique window into a radically different yet profoundly systematic approach to that timeless ambition. It forces us to consider that complex data driven systems and even the philosophical idea of embodied AI as agents within a system aren't just modern inventions. They are echoes of a much older human desire to perceive the underlying code of reality and, well, to program it itself.
And this raises an important question, I think. In an age of advanced AI and an ever deepening understanding of the physical world, can exploring such ancient frameworks, which posited a universe of subtle interconnections and a detailed system of cosmic data, can that offers new perspectives, even if just conceptually?
How so?
Well, perhaps they hinted at hidden patterns or forms of interaction, a profound entanglement of all things that our modern sciences, focused on different methodologies, are only beginning to truly grapple with. Conceptually pushing the boundaries of what we consider physics or technology, it's a reminder maybe that there might be forms of data or influence we're still only beginning to conceptualize beyond our current paradigms.
Something profound to ponder until our next deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey into the past, which might just illuminate our future.